watch any other pregame show, we got you. We're going to get you ready for Show White versus Bayou Barbie, LSU versus Iowa. We got you covered. I got the greatest take on this game that you'll hear anywhere. Stay tuned. Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Monday. Happy basketball day. Happy Women's Basketball Day of Visibility Day. Is that did I say that right? Yeah, happy. It's the day after Easter. I hope you had a marvelous Easter. I was with my family. Hope you were with yours. Hope you spent some time worshiping and praising God and thanking God. I've got a little thank you that I'm going to pass on to you today. I've got the greatest pregame show for a women's basketball game in the history of women's basketball. Today, me and Coach JB, Jason Brown, he's going to help me because there's parts of this where I need a coach's perspective. And TJ Moe is going to help me as well. I've turned him into a Caitlin Clark homer like myself. But my take on this is so surprising that me and TJ may go at it again today over Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, the whole 9 yards. We're going to get into it. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Good Ranchers. Fall in love with beef, chicken, and seafood all over again by subscribing at goodranchers.com. Use my promo code FEARLESS to get $150 worth of free chicken wings for a year, plus $20 off with your subscription. Thank you, Good Ranchers. Thank you so much for supporting us and the kind of great content that we put out that supports our worldview, our biblical worldview. Man, we couldn't do it without Good Ranchers. Make sure you guys are supporting them. Make sure you're also supporting Blaze TV and getting a subscription there. The best thing you can do to support this show is support blazetv.com. Get your subscription. Use my promo code FEARLESS or go to blazetv.com/fearless. Use my promo code FEARLESS, get $20 off your subscription to Blaze TV. Nothing you can do better for this show than that. Now, let me reward you with a Firestarter that I can't believe. When I got up this morning thinking about tonight's big game, I'm confused. I'm a tiny bit confused. So as crazy as it sounds, I could end up rooting for Angel Reese over Caitlin Clark tonight. Don't jump ship on me. I'm no fan of Louisiana State University's women's basketball player who will star opposite the Iowa sensation in the most fascinating women's basketball game ever played. Bayou Barbie versus Show White for the right to advance to the Final Four is the most culturally relevant basketball collision in 45 years since Earvin, Magic Johnson, and Larry, the Hick from French Lick Bird, met in the men's title game. In 1979, I rooted for Magic. As an 11-year-old boy, no athlete captured my imagination the way the 6'9" point guard did with his charismatic smile and no-look passes. I was obsessed with Magic and the fast-paced style of play he popularized. 18 years later, Tiger Woods' golf ascension sparked a similar sports obsession, only greater. I never cared for golf before Tiger began winning tournaments. Woods transformed me. He made me care about Ernie Els, Jim Furyk, David Duval, Mark O'Meara, Phil Mickelson, Sergio Garcia, and so many others. He forced me to care about the history of golf and learn to appreciate Tom Watson, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, and Greg Norman. Caitlin Clark has had the exact same impact on me as Magic and Tiger. I'm obsessed with her. She's compelled me to learn more and more about the women's game. Southern California's Juju Watkins is my second favorite player. But there's a difference. There was never a moment when Magic Johnson took the court or Tiger Woods strolled a golf course that I wasn't clearly rooting for them. Tonight, I could very well be rooting for Angel Reese. I think I am. It's crazy. Reese is arguably the most overrated athlete of my lifetime. She's more overrated than boxer Jerry Cooney, who fought Larry Holmes for the heavyweight crown in 1982. All that Angel Reese really brings to the matchup is her in-your-face, hey, look at me attitude. Her claim to fame is taunting Caitlin Clark. That's it. She's not that skilled. She's not Larry Bird or Magic Johnson. She's Greg Kelser, the Michigan State wingman who benefited from Magic's transcendent playmaking ability. Reese is a solid post player. She knocks down 5 to 8 putbacks per game and grabs 10 to 12 rebounds. Solid work. She's not a star. She's not a co-star. So why might I be rooting for her tonight? Buckle up, because LSU coach Kim Mulkey is the real star of women's college hoops. Mulkey is the real villain, the force who threatens the left wing's narrative on all of sports. Caitlin is the most interesting and electrifying athlete in all of sports. Mulkey is the most dangerous person in sports. She's the disruptor the left-wing establishment wants to destroy. Kim Mulkey, she's the real Bayou Barbie. The left hates her because she's the antithesis of their chosen savior, South Carolina coach Don Staley. The discrimination, vitriol, and unfairness that Staley pretends to receive, the mainstream media actually directs towards Kim Mulkey. Over the weekend, as the Lady Tigers prepared for their Sweet 16 matchup against UCLA, the Washington Post published an 8,000-word takedown of Mulkey. The much-anticipated piece framed Mulkey as paranoid, vindictive, isolated, mean-spirited, and unloving. A week prior, Mulkey and her lawyers preemptively threatened a lawsuit over the article, which I'm sure forced the Post editors to tone down the attack. But the gist of the attack remained. While a coach at Baylor, a religious university, Mulkey had the audacity to refuse to worship the LGBTQ alphabet mafia. She advised Brittany Griner and other homosexual players to keep their private lives private. Mulkey wasn't a fan of tattoos and constantly changing hair colors. She preferred her players to present themselves as women at all times and not as androgynous hoopers. Mulkey, without saying it, clearly believes there's only two genders. She patrols the sidelines in flamboyant, highly feminine outfits because she wants to make a statement that there is just as much strength in traditional femininity as the hypermasculine appearance of Griner and others. For all of this and more, Mulkey is demonized. How dare she not virtue signal support for Griner when Brittany Griner was incarcerated in Russia for an immature choice that Brittany Griner made to carry illegal drugs into a foreign country? How dare she? How dare she prefer a locker room environment free of complications of romantic relationships between teammates? A writer for the Los Angeles Times, though, took it to a new level. He took the attacks on Mulkey way over the top. He said LSU's game with UCLA was a battle of good versus evil. He labeled the Tigers the dirty debutantes. That label is attached to a pornographic video series. The writer basically called LSU dirty whores. Their crime? Playing for Mulkey, a heterosexual Christian who won't bow to the secular woke. It's comical. Mulkey takes the kind of heat and criticism the secular woke pretends Staley gets. Staley, who dresses like a teenage boy, is worshiped. She manufactures discrimination and victimhood. A Duke volleyball player falsely claimed BYU students serenaded her with racial slurs. Without any corroborating evidence, Staley canceled a basketball game at BYU over safety concerns. When an investigation debunked the bogus story, Staley never apologized. Last year, during the NCAA tournament, Staley smeared Iowa coach Lisa Bluder as racist. Bluder said in a press conference that rebounding against South Carolina was like getting into a bar fight. Staley climbed on a cross and acted like Bluter led a pregame KKK rally. Take a listen.
The truth about our team, okay? It's a good question, okay? We're not bar fighters. We're not thugs. We're not monkeys. We're not street fighters. This team exemplifies how you need to approach basketball on the court and off the court. And I do think that that's sometimes brought into the game, and it hurts.
So imagine you're Lisa Bluter. You're about to play one of the most physical basketball teams in all of women's college basketball, probably the most physical. This is last year's South Carolina team. Same is true for this year's South Carolina team, but they got 5 new starters. You're about to play them, and you say, man, rebounding against them is tough. It's like getting into a bar fight. And then there's a black woman that gets on TV the next day and says, we're not monkeys, we're not thugs, we're not bar fighters, we're not street fighters. Now, I know Don Staley, in order to dress these comments up, pretended like someone had told her some gossip about some sports writers who may have said this or that at dinner. But the woman just trashed one of her colleagues, Lisa Bluter, for saying that it's like getting in a bar fight. And the next thing you know, oh my God, we're not monkeys. And we're not thugs. No one said that. No one insinuated that. If someone said it behind your back at a private dinner, who the F cares? She smeared this woman intensely. Don Staley, the person they worship, is not a good person. And she runs around pretending like the LA Times wrote a story calling her basketball team the Dirty Debutantes. She pretends like someone wrote in a newspaper that her team was filled with a bunch of dirty whores. That's the game she played. They actually say that about Kim Mulkey's team because they hate Kim Mulkey. Don Staley pretends like the Washington Post has written some kind of 8,000-word hit piece going into her personal life. This Washington Post story went deep into Kim Mulkey's personal life. Her relationship with her dad, her relationship with her ex-husband, her relationship with former players who complain. One of them complained, oh my God, she said, what's up with my purple hair? The Washington Post did that. No one's writing stories, hit pieces, looking into Don Staley's relationship with former players, which is quite sketchy according to the rumors. No one's writing about that. It's Kim Mulkey. And we allow Don Staley to run around like she's the victim. Don Staley is why I'll likely be rooting for Angel Reese tonight. Reese and Clark, they're gonna disappear into the abyss of the WNBA. For the next decade, the Cold War between Don Staley and Kim Mulkey is going to define women's college basketball. No matter how much I love Caitlin Clark, I just can't get it out of my head that Caitlin Clark is an athlete. I've looked at all these athletes. There's too much money. There's too much incentive for them to sell out and to go woke. And so, I love Caitlin Clark. She's made me pay attention to women's college basketball. Thank her for that. I'll be watching tonight because of her. But would it shock me if she folds, if she bows to the Alphabet Mafia and the whole left-wing crowd? If her group of handlers don't tell her, you know how much more money we could make if you just play along? Wouldn't be surprised at all. That's what all these athletes do. Kim Mulkey, that's a grown-ass woman. She's not going to fold. She's not perfect, but she's battle-tested. I think Mulkey and the Tigers have a better chance at beating South Carolina than Iowa. And that's why I'll more than likely be rooting for Angel Reese and LSU tonight. because Kim Mulkey's in it for the long haul. And this is a war. And that is not a shot at Caitlin Clark. She's a young person. She's a kid. Go out and get your money. Go out and have as much fun as you can have in the WNBA, which I don't know how much fun you can have, but do it. Maybe go to the Big Three, whatever. But Kim Mulkey, she's not perfect, but she's a warrior. And she's in it for the long haul. She's been fighting this group of leftist, deranged idiots her entire career. And she's sitting here right now at the pinnacle of her powers, a chance to win her 5th national title. She's already got 4. And I explained this to you guys a couple of weeks ago, but it's worth reiterating. She has 4 national titles. But who's the women's coach that they parade around opposite Coach K, Mike Krzyzewski, as if this particular woman's coach is the GOAT of women's college basketball? Who do they do that for? Oh, Dawn Staley. She's got 2 titles. Dawn Staley has been anointed and pushed ahead of Kim Mulkey because she fits the profile for everything that they're pushing. Everything. They want women to be androgynous. They want women to be gender fluid, sexually fluid. They want female coaches who lean into a masculine appearance. Know that irritates y'all? They want female coaches that are on the alphabet team. And Kim Mulkey's not. And I could probably get in trouble for saying, but we keep it all the way real on this show, so I'm just going to say it. I'm not saying this to be disrespectful. I'm not saying it to be provocative, but it is so clear cut why they hate Kim Mulkey and why they celebrate Dawn Staley. And if you, one of these 2 women, and I'm just going to say it because it's real and it's true. One of these 2 women, and I'm not saying that this is what women need to do, but it just tells you where the difference in mindsets are. I'm not saying this is appropriate. I'm just telling you the difference in mindsets. And if I had to choose, I know which way I'm choosing. One of these women made millions of dollars and invested in a pair of redone jugs because she still wants the attention of men. And one of them puts a hoodie on every chance she can get and runs around looking like a little teenage boy with a hoodie on, looking like Snoop from The Wire. And I'm not saying Kim Mulkey's right. I'm just telling you what I prefer. And the striking difference between these 2. One of them 60 years old and still trying to look the part, still trying to draw the attention of men. She's divorced. I'm not saying it's all the right thing to do, but I just, the contrast is so incredible. And one of them gets demonized and vilified for it, and the other gets celebrated. I'm on Team Kim Mulkey. More than likely, I'll be rooting for Angel Reese and the LSU Tigers to knock off Iowa. No disrespect to Iowa. If Iowa wins, I will not be upset. But I just don't have any confidence that Iowa can deal with South Carolina's physicality this year. I know they upset them last year. I don't think it'll happen this year. I've watched South Carolina play. They get way too many second chance shots. Way too many. And Iowa just doesn't have the size to deal with Cardosa and the Watkins and all that rebounding that South Carolina does. I just don't think they can deal with it. I think LSU can. And I know LSU's lost 18 straight to South Carolina, but, you know, most of that has nothing to do with Kim Mulkey's LSU team. But anyway, consider it. I know many of you are sitting there, hey, you want to see Caitlin White and Caitlin Clark win and perform well because she is hated. You know, we've seen Cheryl Swopes and all these people pick on Caitlin Clark. I get it. But she ain't hated the way Kim Mulkey's hated. And trust me, they have a plan to get Caitlin Clark on their team. They have hope that they can do that. They can't get Kim Mulkey on their team. That's why they want to destroy her. All right, the real Coach JB, Jason Brown's around the corner. Before we go, I want to talk to you guys about our mission. Preborn. Abortion has been the greatest sin in our history as a country, and it happens every single day. And unfortunately, overturning Roe v. Wade was only the first step in a long list of steps towards eventually cleansing our country of the horrific stain on its conscience. The ministry of Preborn empowers young expectant mothers in crisis to choose life. Preborn has rescued hundreds of thousands of babies' lives through ultrasound. When a woman considering abortion visits a preborn center, she gets to hear her baby's heartbeat and meet that precious child on ultrasound. And it's a divine, life-changing encounter. The majority of the time, she will choose life for her baby. I'm proud to be affiliated with an organization that's not only working to save lives, but is succeeding. Preborn has a passion to save unborn babies from abortion and see women come to Christ. Over the past 15 years, preborn centers have counseled over 450,000 women considering abortion, and more than 200,000 babies have been saved. Those are amazing numbers, but let's do more. Will you help rescue babies' lives? To donate, dial pound 250, say the keyword baby, that's pound 250, keyword baby, or go to preborn.com, give the way that I prefer to give, preborn.com/fearless. Preborn.com/fearless. Guys, this is part of our life mission. Preborn has jumped on board with Roll Call. They're our primary sponsor. They're backing us. We need to back them. Send in your donation to Preborn today. They're backing us. We got to back them up. And make sure you're also going to fearlessarmyrollcall.com to reserve your spot today. The real JB, Coach JB. Last chance you, JB. Next. Hello, Fearless Army. I'm Jason Whitlock, your leader. I'm going to spend 2024 discussing growth and sacrifice. Hard times are here. Harder times are coming. What has stopped American growth and caused a regression in fundamental freedoms and values? A lack of sacrifice. Our ancestors sacrificed for our benefit. We have not sacrificed to protect the progress they died for. No sacrifice, no freedom. What impedes man's willingness to sacrifice? His ignorance, his perversion, his pride, his ingratitude, and his cowardice. His rejection of God. The Bible is a story about the power and the necessity of sacrifice. Sacrifice is the sun, rain, and fertilizer of growth. Growth is our life purpose. Grow in the knowledge, wisdom, fear, obedience, and reverence to the Most High. Growth requires sacrifice will be our theme for Roll Call 2.0 this summer, June 1, right back here in Nashville. We're excited to welcome you. Let me spend a minute explaining what GROWTH actually stands for us in the Fearless Army. The G is for game plan. In order to properly grow, it's essential we work from the strategic game plan spelled out in the Bible. The R, responsibility. As we grow as men, we understand and accept our responsibilities to God, family, and teammates. The O, ownership. We embrace ownership of our destiny. Outsiders do not determine our fate. The W, wisdom. We honor, value, and share the wisdom imparted to us by elders, coaches, and leaders. The T, trust. We must be worthy of trust. The reliability of a man's word defines him far more than popularity and material possessions. The H, humility. The reward for humility and fear of the Lord is riches and honor and life. That's straight from Proverbs 22:4. Come join us in Nashville as we talk about growth and sacrifice and how without sacrifice there will be no growth. Roll Call 2.0 right here in Nashville, Saturday, June 1st. Time for some Jason Brown. JB, when I read the Washington Post story on Kim Mulkey, I immediately thought of you. And I was like, man, I hope JB reads this because it's like that entire story, the stuff, and there was much of it was trying to be framed in a negative way. But the whole story seemed to be, man, if you try to coach these kids and try to direct them in any way, try to correct them in any way, oh, this is horrible. And, you know, a coach must be fired. You must affirm these players at every turn. If they want to tat themselves up, if they want to color their hair any color they want, if they want to be 18, 19 years old and be in relationships with their teammates, you got to be for it. And I'm just like, JB, they're outlawing coaching. Your
Jason,
thoughts?
That's why I'm not coaching. Among other things. But that's probably one of the reasons I just can't do it. I've had a few people come at me and ask me if I'd entertain a job. I said, absolutely no way. There's no way. I'd be fired today. I take the job right now, Jason, I'll be fired tonight. Like, it is what it is. Like, why are you putting coaches in harm's way? I don't get it. Like, this is what you want. This is the agenda you want to push. Why are you trying to hire the best, quote unquote, the best leader of so-called men or women? They're not the best leaders because you want a puppet. You want a puppet in a puppet show that you can control, that lets the boys paint their nails, lets the girls talk back. This is what you want. There's no hierarchy, Jason. I just think that this is absolute just disgraceful. Like, you cannot coach. I literally posted right after that came out, I posted and retweeted it with the video they were sharing of me yelling at kids. They said, this is Kim Mulkey. And it was me yelling at kids. And I retweeted it and I said, so basically this is a hit piece on coaching hard. Because it wasn't anything else. It was coaching hard. And I'm like, what? Jason, let me ask you a question. When did correction become criticism? That is the question I have.
I want to know, when did criticism become a bad thing? I mean, there used to be jobs called critics. Everybody expected, Cisco and Ebert, they're critics. And critic was a respectable profession that people understood that criticism elevates and moves you closer towards perfection. Now it's hating. That criticism is called hating, and so I guess they'd have haters instead of critics now. That's the profession.
Or trolls.
That's what we've done. Yeah, or that's what we've done. We've demonized criticism, and there would be no Michael Jordan without criticism, or at least in his mind that people criticized him. That's what made him great. That's what made Tom Brady great, is critics. And we want to deny that of kids, and in particular, black kids. Let's deny them criticism because they just need their butts kissed. That's what will make them great.
You can't coach them hard. You can't criticize them. You have to allow. We used to say coach it or allow it. We are allowing it at an all-time high, and there's a reason for it, because coaches are walking on pins and needles, on eggshells, because they know they'll be fired if they say anything that's not with your agenda. And I think it's a narrative we're pushing. It's an absolute joke. Frank Martin comes on my show quite often. Very fiery, big-time coach, South Carolina, K-State, now at UMass. And he comes on the show and says the same stuff. It's like, listen, now, Jason, it's a pile-on thing. This is how cancel culture works. I'm a victim of it. So I was falsely accused of 8 charges. Okay. I wasn't even in the state in my office when this happened. I'm already home in California. This whole thing happens. Well, guess what happens? Everybody gets part of it, a wind of it. And they want me to be what? I'm the devil now. So then they're going to say, oh, he used to yell at kids. Then he fired coaches. All which is part of the business, but now they pile on to one thing that was false, and then they add to it. So you saw it yesterday with Kim Mulkey, Jason. the LA Times, after Kim Mulkey beats my UCLA Bruins, the LA beat writer goes after her, saying her team is basically, in essence, a bunch of thugs. They're basically a bunch of, this and that. She came after them as well. Yeah, she came after them as well and said a pile-on effect. This is what happens in today's society, man. It's unbelievable. I mean, you saw Biden's calendar. I mean, we got unbelievable days that celebrate certain things. It's crazy. Like, we celebrate LGBT or whatever that's called more than blacks in this country. It's unbelievable. I just talked to Smitty about that today on the show. Like, why aren't the brothers coming forward and saying, hey, dog, we're tired of this. We get 1 month, which is still a slap in the face, in my opinion. But now.
No, it's not. JJ, none of skin color's not nothing to be celebrated. And what holes you allow people to enter, that shouldn't be celebrated either. They're nothing.
Exactly.
They're inconsequential things that shouldn't be celebrated at all. All of it is idolatry and ridiculous and moves people away from doing the right thing. JB, the other thing, I was looking at this Kim Mulkey thing. Nick Saban probably read that article and was like, yeah, glad I got out. Bill Belichick will read that article and be like, I guess it wasn't such a bad thing that I didn't get a new job, because everything that these guys stood for is being outlawed to the point that it's being criminalized for women coaches to the same thing. They're now down to, hey, we got to eliminate any of these women that actually coach these kids and try to lead them in a positive direction too. And that's why, JB, I blame the media. The media is the one pushing this more than anybody else. I don't think kids actually want it and respect. That's why they could only get one girl really to attack Kim Mulkey. And her girlfriend on the team came out and defended Kim Mulkey. So I think the overwhelming majority of the kids want to be coached hard. The media runs in and says, no, that's racist, or that's homophobic, or that's sexist if you allow yourself to be coached hard. I think the kids actually still desire it.
They do. Kids want to get coached hard. I talk to coaches every day. They're like, JB, they still want to get coached hard. The kids haven't changed. And I'm hearing this from current coaches that are coaching every day. Kids that I speak to that are still very respectful, kids that want to do it. But they tell me straight up, hey, coach, my coach don't challenge me. So I just be like calling him by his first name. And I'm like, really? And this is like kids telling me this in person that I speak to on a daily basis. They're like, yeah, coach, they don't challenge us. It'd be crazy to come at you like that. We know you're going to challenge us. And I'm like, really? Again, allow it or coach it. That's the society we live in. And a funnier one than Saban and these other names you brought up. What about Coach K? Maybe he's the smartest one of all of them that got out when he did for a reason. And this is coming from some people that actually have talked to him, have said he was ahead of this curve on this thing. He got out ahead of all of them. And it's funny that he's come out now and saw what Saban said, and he's come out and kind of disagreed in the manner that Saban said it. But at the end of the day, it's all the same thing. You're leaving. Chip Kelly's leaving a head coaching job to go be an assistant in college for a reason. Like, there's just no.
I'll give you the better one. It's Jay Wright. That's who saw what was coming and bounced. And now he's doing a great job as a broadcaster. He's really, again, they don't really need Charles and Kenny. Jay Wright and Clark Kellogg can handle that thing now. Yeah. But Jay Wright is the guy that I think saw what was coming and said, I got a lot of money. I can go into broadcasting. I can still make money. If I can't pass on any values, if it's just X's and O's, what am I doing here? It's just not as fulfilling, because the money is great, but most coaches want to be able to say, man, I recruited Jason Whitlock, and he was a knucklehead for 4 straight years. But look at him now. Some of that stuff we gave him actually stuck. That's the actual reward.
Jason, I molded him. I got him through the process. Like, the kids that talk crap about me are kids that were absolute idiots that I cut. They were criminals. They robbed McDonald's at night. The people talking about Mulkey are girls she cut, girls that didn't play a lot. The people that come out and going to claim politics, oh, she played politics. Coach played me. He played me. No, I do play politics, and I actually do. I play the people that are there to win me the game. I'm going to play those guys. That's what people don't get. Like, I do play politics. I play winners. I don't understand these kids nowadays. They just can't take it. To your point, I don't believe kids have changed. I believe the coaches, the adults in the room, or lack thereof, have changed. And I think we've allowed it at an all-time high because, interesting story, I've talked to 2 Division I coaches yesterday who told me 30 minutes of practice consists of begging players not to enter the portal. Imagine living in a life like that. I have to waste 30 minutes of my teaching time in an already restrictive NCAA rule of how many minutes a week I have my players. I have to spend these minutes in order for those kids to understand how much I love them, and I got to, kiss babies and tell them how great they are, only to still lose them at the end of the day. So now, guess what it's done to coaching, Jason? And now I've lost my integrity for letting Jason Whitlock miss practice one day and not go to class one day, but yet I still start him on Friday or Saturday because he's a better player. But now my locker room sees, oh, Jason missed practice and class, which is Coach JB's rules, and he still played them. This is happening across college landscape of football, baseball, basketball. And you can't tell me that having no hierarchy where kids think they're equals is a conducive path for success. It's just not.
JB, I do think parents are a big part of the problem. But I just, and this isn't me just picking on the media. It's like they wouldn't do this if they thought they would get criticized in the media. If that girl that was complaining about, Kim Mulkey, she suspended me from the team because she found out I was gay. And look, at the end of the day, Kim Mulkey would have to be blind not to see, oh, this girl's gay. She'd have to be blind. Does she wear she'd have to be, everybody knew you was gay. That's not it. And just like her girlfriend at the time said, the wrote a statement, was like, nah, you got suspended for smoking weed and, your grades wasn't right. And I forget, maybe late to practice. I can't remember what the other stuff is. But nope, it was because I'm gay and she doesn't like me because I'm gay. Look, if Kim Mulkey was that hostile to gay people, she would have left women's college basketball 25 years ago, 30 years ago. She'd have never played.
That's the point I was going to lead to. Like, if we've all had, kids that they did their own thing. We didn't care. Like, we had no issue. And it's always been that way. When you played, I don't think you cared what color the coach was in the locker room. I don't think you cared what your teammates' color was. Either did I, either did Smitty, anyone that we talked to. We never thought about that. Nowadays, the media, to your point, has made that a big time discussion. Nobody cares in the locker room. To your point, I don't think Kim cares who she coaches if they can put the ball in the hoop. She could care less what your denomination is, what political, where you are, on what side you lean. She could care what your religion is. It doesn't matter. She made a great point on Easter. Yes, we're going to celebrate Easter. I don't care if you're Muslim, if you're a Christian, if you're Catholic, you're going to come up and say a prayer in your dialect or whatever it may be. And that's what you're going to do. She answered that perfectly, I thought. I just don't understand the way we push a narrative on this thing. And I just look back at it and I'm like, my biggest question to you, Jason, is this, because you came from the mud, I came from the mud. And at some point when we hit puberty, you can't sit here and continue to blame others, though. and that's my biggest disagreement with you or fight with Smitty today. When are we going to own it and say, okay, I know the difference between right and wrong? Like, I was raised by one of the biggest, drug dealers in American history. Well, guess what? I didn't do it. I didn't do the drug. I didn't sell it. I didn't do any of it, even though I was being raised by the guy. Like, what point are we going to say, we're men now, we're women now. I'm going to do me. I'm going to make a right at the stop sign. I'm not making a left to follow everybody else. These kids get a pass, Jason, for being allowed to not make their own decisions. And we give them a pass for we say the adult, the coach. I'm a victim. I say it a lot. I've said it 3 times on this show. But at some point, I got to hold the kid accountable too and say, listen, man, you want to be called adults at 18 years old because y'all say it every day. Oh, I'm grown. Don't talk to me that way. I'm grown. Really? Then if you're so grown, then guess what? Make a right at the stop sign and stop following everybody else. Like, it's funny today, Jason. Rashid Rice gets caught racing a car, walks away from the deal. And I got a guy on my show today talking about, well, they're kids. Well, just last week, you said that these cats at 18 were adults. How is the 18 adult in college getting an NIL deal, an adult at 18, but Rashid Rice at 23 in the NFL is still a kid? Now, make that make sense. It's an oxymoron. It's a hypocritical statement. We got to start holding these dudes accountable at what age we call them adults. And if they're 18, then that's legally cool. I don't think a kid's an adult until they're paying bills and putting someone through college. That's my definition. These 18-year-olds who they can go to the war, coach. No, they can't. They can go enlist because we have the numbers now. When my dad was in the Korean War, Jason, at 18, they could put him on the front line because we lacked enrollment. We don't lack enrollment no more. We're not putting 18 years old on the stat right on. We
actually do lack enrollment, but
we might
actually do that.
We might now again.
Yeah,
we haven't
because
for a while.
of DEI and all that. People aren't.
Yeah, we might now. You're right, but I don't think we have. Anyway, I got off subject.
JB, I agree with your point of view. Like, hey, at some point, the kids have to know right from wrong. But JB, we've created such a poisonous culture that many things that are wrong have been made right. And so if you're having just fundamental, what's the QB center snap? It's like, if you don't get the QB center snap right, all that other stuff you drew up, it don't make a difference. You got to get the snap right. And so that's where we are in society right now with young people. If we're debating who's a man and who's a woman, and if there's 32 other genders, and if boys can go compete against girls, that's the QB center snap. We've jacked that up. And so I can't be shocked that these young people are looking at the adults that are supposed to show them the way and go, man, y'all ain't about nothing. Y'all can't even do a quarterback center exchange. How y'all gonna lead a team? How y'all gonna run a successful offense if I ain't got no daddy in the home, or the daddy that I did have in the home, he didn't teach me anything, he didn't tell me any of these values. We've so jacked up the fundamentals that I do look at these kids with sympathy and just say, man, they just wasn't taught what I was taught. They don't know what they don't know. And so Rashid Rice, again, when I see Rashid Rice, I go, when I look at that, I go, man, I think about my father. And the arguments that we had from age 19 to about 23 about my friends. And some friends he felt, you got to let them go. Them dudes is headed to jail, Jason. And even when I was an adult, even as an adult, I can remember, I hate to keep it this real, but I got to keep it this real. Some of my friends were involved in things that my father, I'm like 32, and he's like, dude, you can't run with them. That what they're doing eventually leads to drugs and to drug sales and all that. I can just remember it stayed on my rear, and luckily I got smart enough and made a lot of great choices and was very careful. But I look at Rashid Rice and I'm just like, Y'all out racing cars. You with some dudes that looks like they got guns and drugs in their car, and you're an NFL player with that kind of stuff. You playing with Patrick Mahomes? You gonna throw all this away? Oh, but racing a car?
The key you just said was I made this decision. This is the problem I see. These kids, the eyes in the room, the individual, have zero regard for the value of a dollar, the value of life, a little less, their value of their own lives. They care less. There's no respect for elders. The difference between this generation and ours, Jason, you being tutored and told by your father, hey, I'm just letting you know at 32, hey, little Johnny is not the one. That's cool. But you already knew that deep down inside, and you also weren't going to go out and disrespect a grandfather, a grandmother. You probably were still going to open a door for somebody, and you probably still would have helped someone. These cats are the worst I've ever seen, Jason. They have zero regard for anything. And guess what? We've made it worse by giving them the keys to the car before we taught them even how to drive it. And it's figurative and literal now. Because we've seen Jalen Carter, we've seen Henry Ruggs, we've seen these cats over and over and over. And
I'm gonna give you a better one, JB. I'm gonna give you a better one. Right there, Rashee Rice plays in Kansas City. Andy Reid's son just got out of the joint.
I just brought that up.
Just got out.
Here's my question. Here's my question. What do you do about it? I had this whole same topic on my show today. There has to be something done about it, because if Calvin Ridley's betting suspension is longer than this, there is a fundamental issue, and it's going to be brought up. Rice is not going to do a year. Let's just be honest. They will suspend you for DraftKings that they shove down our throat every day over the loss of a life, possibly this woman and her 4-year-old son who got hit in this whole thing. This is another issue that we have. There needs to be a straight line on what we do. Like when I coached Jason, I had 2 rules. If you're late, you do this. If you miss, you do this. That's it. The entire program ran that way. And I believe the NFL needs to get to that, because there's too many. Oh, you can hit a girl and Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, but you only miss this many games. Ray Rice got a whole basically life. Like when is it going to just be, listen, if you do this dumb stuff, if you don't go to jail, the NFL is going to put you in football jail, meaning I'm going to hit you where it hits the worst. Take your money. You can't buy or drive the Corvette and the Lamborghini no more, because your money's going to be hit. This guy's a rookie, Jason, at 23 years old. He's a rookie. He's only on a rookie salary. So guess what? Hit him where it hurts now, so he doesn't do this in 5 years when he's making $20 million. I just don't get what the NFL does. The NBA is the same way with John Morant and all this other stuff. We give them a pass and hope that they're going to get better. They're not going to get better unless you show them, and showing them is giving them where it hits them where it hurts the most. Pocket.
JB, I got to go. I don't know if I got a solution today. I don't know. But they had that player conduct policy started in 2007. Been a total failure, toothless. It was always a gimmick. But I'm going to get into that with I think with Steve Kim tomorrow. But JB, I got to go. I got to get to TJ Moe. Great job as always. Thank you. It's Jason Brown. Don't go anywhere. TJ Moe. Next. We've never had an American woman basketball player offered $5 million.
Not 5.
$4 million.
Not 4.
$3 million.
Not 3.
$2 million.
Not 2.
$1 million.
I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And this woman has found a way to be offended by it.
Oh, you're offending the foreign countries. Oh, my God. How dare you offend the foreign countries?
你真没见过黑社会哈！操你妈的！敢不敢跟我比划？
Told you, Mom. This is a great opening opportunity for American women's basketball players. Caitlin Clark can drag all of these angry women to the financial promised land that they've been begging for.
And yet, despite all of this, we're still paid less than our male counterparts.
Welcome back to Beef. As I walk you through my top 50 media beefs of all time. Yeah, I'm an equal opportunity beefer. It's like, Randy, are you asleep at the wheel? Big lips are in style. I'd love to squash this beef. I mean, I was not real happy at all. I was less than thrilled. I was displeased. And now we have beef. All right, welcome back. TJ Moe, I wanted to bring him on because I needed someone to perhaps argue that I'm crazy for rooting for Angel Reese tonight. TJ, I'm rooting for Kim Mulkey, and that makes me have to root for Angel Reese. I think that Mulkey is a more dangerous force and threat to the leftist agenda than Caitlin Clark. And so I want LSU to advance.
Probably after the first quarter and you start watching Caitlin Clark, you'll change your mind and we'll be on the same team again. But I will tell you the long-term ramifications of Caitlin Clark winning this championship, and I know tonight's just the Elite Eight, but she needs to win the championship, is that if she doesn't, Kim Mulkey, to the masses, goes back to irrelevancy. And look, I've never watched women's college basketball. I'm now a big Kim Mulkey fan, but I'm not likely to continue watching Kim Mulkey just for fun. Like, Caitlin Clark being in the mix is the only reason I'm watching the game tonight. She's the only reason I'm watching all the other games, because these people might play Caitlin Clark at some point. And so, look, it is her 5th national championship going to suddenly become the threat to the left. She's been the same threat to the left for all of her national championships. And so now maybe she's more relevant, and that's just because of Caitlin Clark. And Caitlin Clark needs to go win that national championship. And I don't think Caitlin's going to crack. I disagree with part of your mono there. Caitlin Clark is been in according to Jason Whitlock, the biggest star in all of sports going on 15 months or so. And she's not, as far as I can tell, uttered one woke word. She has she's from Middle America. She posted a picture of her and her boyfriend, which in a locker room that she comes from is somewhat of a controversial decision. And she's mostly stayed out of everything. And so I actually think Caitlin Clark is too big. She's so much bigger than women's basketball. She doesn't need to bow to the left.
So I used to think that you were too big to have to bow. And then I watched, and he's backed away from it, but I watched Patrick Mahomes do a bunch of leftist type stuff, and then he hasn't done anything since. But it's like when I saw Patrick Mahomes fold, it made me say, any of them will fold. And because, Patrick Mahomes trying to pretend like he's Black Lives Matter and he's, this, that, and the third, it blew my mind. And so I like your argument, because the WNBA and women's basketball is really, really dependent on Caitlin Clark. She's got a lot of leverage. Mm-hmm. But they're not going to give up, and they're going to offer so much money. Again, Caitlin Clark may start selling more gym shoes than 3 years from now than LeBron James ever did. And those from Nike to who I think she may be with Adidas or whatever, but they're as woke as anybody. And once they start dangling that money,
You know who
I
didn't
think she'll
crack, as
fall.
far as I can tell, and maybe you have examples that I can't think of off the top of my head? Tom Brady, who was bigger than the sport. Tom didn't go either direction. Tom backed away from MAGA after he had the MAGA hat in his locker, but he never embraced the left.
That's folding.
I don't know. I don't know if backing away, but let's say this. Being neutral today is an irritation to the left. If Caitlin Clark never says anything, they're ticked. And so, by the way, Caitlin Clark, coming from a Catholic high school, and so likely a Christian background, I think, this is two Christian white women that we're talking about here that at this point have not folded. Kim Mulkey, I agree, is not going to fold. I'd be surprised if Caitlin folds. And I think the NBA is so woke. I can't think of anybody that's not woke in the NBA that has any relevance. But in the NFL, there are some guys. And Peyton Manning's not woke. Peyton Manning was bigger than the sport. When you have those few people that are actually bigger than the sport itself, and Caitlin, as you've pointed out, is Tiger Woods. Without Tiger Woods, nobody knows the name of the vast majority of the golfers. Tiger Woods isn't woke, right? Like, how many of these people that are so big have to bow to the woke mob?
They don't have to. They just figure out there's more money if they do. And look, let me take like Peyton Manning on. And again, I like Peyton Manning, but he is partnering up with ESPN. He doesn't need the money. He's doing his media career through ESPN. That to me is bowing to the woke mob. Again, this goes back to F you money versus F me money. When you have all that money, it's like, nah, I'm good. I'm not.
No, listen, Jason, you've never bowed to the woke mob, and you worked for ESPN twice and Fox twice. And nobody would ever say, Whitlock really bowed to the woke mob during those years that he worked for those guys. I actually think it's a bigger deal to be taking money from them and refusing to bow to them, to go on those airwaves and never do what they expect you to do. I've never heard Peyton Manning utter a woke word. No, Eli either. It's like, if you're so big, can you force them to have to pay you because you're so relevant and be on their platform and not promote any of the values that they want you to promote? To me, that's actually a bigger deal than just going to start your own thing.
Something is going to happen. And I'm joking when I say this, but I can't think of the great example, but some Iowa basketball player that Caitlin Clark played with will get arrested in Russia with her lesbian girlfriend or whatever. And Caitlin Clark, they'll be forced to make some sort of statement. And Caitlin Clark's going to say, they're going to do something to put her in a spot where she's expected to comment. And take what they did to Nick Bosa. Oh, God, he doesn't like Beyonce, therefore he's racist. Oh, he likes Trump, therefore he's racist. And they're going to do something, and she'll decide, well, if I just say this one thing, it'll get them off my back, and they'll never do it. And that's like what, in my view, Patrick Mahomes did. He did a few things to spray himself with off so those mosquitoes never hop on him. But I watched him spray himself with off, and I didn't like it, and I just haven't been because again, I just don't think it's authentic.
He's black. There's a higher pressure to be woke, I think, if you're particularly a mixed race guy in a locker room and you're the quarterback. I think there's a higher pressure, certainly from the media, than Caitlin Clark.
And stupid teammates. Yeah,
and stupid team, no doubt. Caitlin Clark, again, she's getting no pressure to be woke right now. No, she's in the middle of Iowa, right? Surrounded by a bunch of white girls who sing High School Musical 2 instead of gangster rap for fun. And so there's not a lot of woke stuff happening in Iowa. So I agree, she will face it at some point. But I'm telling you, she's maybe, this goes to your point that I would argue against being a good option, but according to Ice Cube, she has options. Like, she's the first woman in world history to have options aside from going to play in a league that nobody's ever watched or would not exist without the subsidization of the NBA. And so I just think that, to go back to your Kim Mulkey point, she's been this way. And I didn't know this. You did, because you've been friends with her and following with her. But after reading that Washington Post article, the fifth national championship is not going to do it. She's already been saying F you to these guys for 10, 15, 20, however long she's coaching. She's never stopped.
No. I got you about the fifth national championship, but they want to install Dawn Staley. And so they need Dawn Staley to get her third national championship. And I think there's a better chance of LSU beating South Carolina than Iowa. That's the other part of my. They've already pushed Dawn Staley someplace she hasn't earned. They got her sitting out there like she's Gino Auriemma. Like Gino Auriemma needs to be doing those commercials with Coach K. And the next in line would be Kim Mulkey. But somehow they've skipped Dawn Staley ahead, and that's why they need to get her a third national championship, and as quickly as possible a fourth, so they can actually legitimize what they gave her. And again, it's no different than Barack Obama started a bunch of wars, but they still gave him a Nobel Peace Prize before he did anything. He was like, hey, for winning the election, you get the Nobel Peace Prize. And we'll justify it later. Yep. That's what they've done with Dawn Staley. And so I'm trying to, I think LSU just has a much better shot of beating South Carolina.
I'm telling you, you watched the same game I did. If John Stockton shows up again the way she did this last game, that's the best I've ever seen a woman play basketball. If she's got that vision, I think LSU's in for a rough night, and I think South Carolina's in for a rough night if they play. That was the first time I probably watched 15 Caitlin Clark games. She's been shoot first most of the time. I get it. She averages 9 assists a game. She was pass first, and they ran up and down the court. I get it. It was Colorado, but Colorado looked really good against K-State, who you thought would beat Iowa. And so they had a little girl, Sherrod, I don't remember her first name, who was really, really fast. And it looked like Caitlin Clark was running circles around her when she was running up and down the court. So I don't think I agree. I think when you have a player that special who has the ability to hit from the logo, then you have a chance to beat anybody anytime.
They certainly have a chance. South Carolina has a 6'7" girl, this Cardosa, that's going to block some of those layups that Iowa's hitting off those dimes from Caitlin Clark. And it's just the number of second shots that South Carolina gets. It doesn't matter. They take good shots, bad shots. It doesn't matter if they hit the rim, don't hit the rim. They just overwhelm you with their size and physicality and put a bunch of putbacks in. I just can't see. And look, anything's possible. Iowa beat them last year. I don't think Dawn Staley is that good of a coach. She wins with talent. And so it is a possibility, but I'm just not that hopeful. Now, do I think USC and Juju Watkins can beat South Carolina? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And so that would be my fallback on this whole deal. But you've made such a compelling argument for Caitlin Clark and her not folding that I'm now back more 50-50 than I was, and maybe I gotta say you've actually done a decent job here arguing Caitlin's side. Things I didn't should have told me this before the show, but anyway.
You got a prediction?
I want to play you.
I just need Iowa to win so that I don't finish last in our office pool. I'm in 9th right now. You're in 8th. Second to last, and so I really need Iowa to win.
I fell all the way to second to last.
Yeah.
I was.
By the way,
doing
do you have
so
a prediction
well
for tonight?
Yeah, I think LSU's going to win.
Score?
75 to 70. 75 to 70. Yeah, that would be my prediction. Hopefully I'm wrong. Maybe I can't believe how much I'm looking forward to this. I want to play you this clip, though, of Dawn Staley. People, emailed me this or reached out to me over Twitter. Jason, when you go? Don Staley celebrated Easter. When you gonna send her flowers? Don Staley, she rep God. I want to play you this clip and get your reaction. This is Don Staley after they won on Saturday.
Coach Staley, your average margin of victory all year long was like 26 points per game. I like confetti. She likes confetti. But the last two games have been close and tough, and your team has had to grit out and find ways to win. What's impressed you about this group?
That's our team. They're resilient. I mean, they deserve it. They've worked extremely hard to be where we are. I'm super proud of them. I'm giving all the glory to God, though. God is really, he's really funny. He's really funny. The devastating loss that we had last year to put us back here with a totally different team. If you don't believe in God, something's wrong with you. Seriously, I'm a believer. I'm a believer because He makes things come true. When you're at your worst, He's at His best. Look at him. Look at him.
What won't He do?
So South Carolina won, and God did that. Your thoughts?
Well, she halfway quoted scripture there when I am weak, He is strong. You know that she did not say the name of Jesus. She went with the woke version of you should believe in God. I'm a believer, and so that's sort of the universalist kind of my first reaction was irritation. What I do not like when something good happens to them and they say, that bad thing that happened, that wasn't God last year, but look, I was at my worst. And the reason South Carolina won today is because of God, and He wanted South Carolina to win. That is sort of how it came off, as opposed to, hey, look, all my coaching skills in town, and I'll give glory to God for that. But I will say, you just put that aside, because that was just my first reaction. I'm probably one of those guys that anytime you'll get anybody talking about God in the media, sign me up for that, even if it's not the most authentic. I just want God front and center somewhere, get somebody else thinking and talking about it that otherwise would not have been there. So not going to hear a ton of criticism from me, although I don't feel like it's authentic, and it certainly does not follow her to her bedroom.
Yeah. I have to be consistent and say that, someone glorifying God, I got to give him credit. I just didn't like it. It's just, I do like it when guys get their post-game interview and they say, first thing I want to do is thank Jesus Christ or my personal Lord and Savior, or I want to thank God, blah, blah, blah. But when you then turn it into, hey, God is funny. He's got a sense of humor because we lost last year, and look at us now, we won, and look at God, look at God. I don't like it like, well, if you had lost, God was cracking jokes again or whatever, but she's doing the best that she can. The other thing, and I wish we had this clip, when they went back to the studio, L. Duncan, some woman that I've fallen in love with named Drea Roberts, I think is her name, a little light-skinned chick. I got to admit, I fought Drea. If you see this clip, I love you. And then the other woman's name, Chimney or what. Anyway, they're doing the studio show. And they took what Don Staley said and then tried to re-reference it as in giving glory to her. And it's ESPN just won't stop with the wokeness and the feminist psychobabble garbage. Because to her credit, Don Staley used the right pronoun. It's the idiots back at the ESPN studio, but the proper discipling Drea. Yeah, the proper discipling Drea, I could have you on chorus and calling out the right pronouns. I need to stop.
I would advise you.
I gotta say,
Yeah.
I gotta say, I'm just keeping it real though. I do enjoy Drea, and this is how this is what's so funny. Watching the women's tournament, I can now enjoy Beth Mowins. She does not bother me at all. All of these female broadcasters that bug the heck out of me when I'm watching the women's tournament, I actually enjoy them.
This is why I've never bought anybody who's tried to tell us we're sexist for thinking Beth Mowins shouldn't be calling punt returns and trying to do the Chris Berman to the house call. It's the craziest thing. But I think women should be calling women's games. And I think we talked about this yesterday off the air. I think women should be coaching other women. I don't particularly love that Gino Auriemma is a coach of a women's team. I think you should go coach some dudes. And unfair, but what I've thought my whole life, being my uneducated opinion, is that, you weren't good enough to coach the dude, so you went and coached a bunch of girls. And I get it. He's the greatest women's coach ever. But I'm like, the dudes didn't want to listen to you? What was it here? So, sign me up for Beth Mowins, only when I'm watching women's basketball.
Well, I'm going to let you do that today. I've said enough things. I talked about, I mistakenly, and I'm sure I'm going to regret making any mention of Kim Mulkey's cans. Now I've mentioned Drea. I've had a wild day here on Fearless, but just trying to keep it real.
I want to quote you verbatim.
Yeah.
You cut this out if you want to, but yesterday on the phone verbatim, you said, even I don't have the balls to call out Kim Mulkey's new cans. But you did.
Well, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Anyway, play tomorrow, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, no deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I wanna be,